least not the humans that I know, cannot look at a large data set and pick up patterns. Machine learning algorithms can, and they can do that pretty quickly. And after a few iterations, can know what to look for future data sets. So AI is here to make our jobs easier. It's not here to replace them. It's here to complement us, not to colonize us.
Welcome to UpTech Report. This is our Applied Tech series. UpTech Report is sponsored by TerraLeap. Learn how to leverage the power of video at terraleap.io. Today, I am joined by my guest, Matt York, who's based in Boston. He's the Senior Solutions Marketing Manager at riskmethods. Welcome, Matt. Good to have you on.
Alex, it's great to be here. Thanks.
Now, your platform, riskmethods, it's a software solution that you're all focused around helping supply chain risk management in that sphere. So those who are in the supply chain industry, this might be an intriguing solution you're going to want to check out. Help me understand, Matt, the root beginning of riskmethods. It actually started many years ago. Do you remember the date it began?
Right. So riskmethods was founded in 2013. In Munich, by two procurement and supply chain software veterans, Heiko Schwartz and Rolf Zimmer. They saw a glaring gap in the market for a supply chain risk management solution set. They initially sought to bring their innovative solution to OEMs like auto manufacturing, aerospace and defense, pharma, biotech, et cetera. But nearly a decade later, we've seen a significant validation beyond these initial markets into the indirect procurement side. Companies that provide services beyond manufacturing products like banks, insurance companies, government agencies. So we've gone from a startup mode to a growth mode, and we're in a very exciting period in the company's journey.
And this whole concept about being able to track supply chain risks and issues, giving that visibility, that's kind of one of the core concepts or purposes of it, correct?
That's right. Yeah, visibility is at the heart of the risk method solution set and what we're preaching.
When it comes to visibility, I mean, what is issues like we're facing today that well, if anything, you think of the pandemic and suddenly supply chains goes crazy. Well, would you call that a black swan event, or can you really be prepared for that type of thing? I mean, where does this solution come into play?
Yeah, so this is a kind of a novel kind of risk event. I mean, there are very smart people that saw this kind of event coming, epidemiologists, public health experts. And these are kinds of events that risk management teams will model on and will try to see coming down. But it's just such a for most people it is a black swan event, and it's a very opaque environment that supply chain can be, especially the further down you go into the supply base. It's harder to get more visibility into it.
Now, that is difficult to plan for, but there are plenty of more, I call them regular issues that I imagine can arise that you can get visibility on. Help me understand where and when is it important to get that visibility? What are the common things you're looking for? Right.
So most companies are familiar with gaining visibility into the first line of suppliers, what they call the first tier, and even that is a struggle. Not every company has the ability to look into their immediate suppliers, supply chains, their processes, their labor practices, their financial health, any number of other elements of risk in a business. And it gets even more complicated the further down you go into a supply chain. So you're getting into suppliers, subcontractors, their suppliers, products or components can have several different levels of or layers of production or manufacturing, and so the further down you go into the manufacturing process, the harder it is to understand the country or source of origin, whether their products are compliant, their business processes are legal or ethical, and it just creates a whole lot of other issues the further down you go.
What's the the difference between real time versus periodic visibility, and like what do you see as the future of being able to get visibility all the time? Is that are we going to be able to get to that point?
Yeah, in many cases we're there right now. There's so I'll start sort of from the beginning, like supply chain management, supply management. It's at this big catch-all term, and one aspect of that is supplier performance management. And so, when you're doing an initial onboarding of a supplier, you want to understand how they performed, what they're likely to do, if they're likely to fulfill their business requirements. And you do due diligence on the supplier, and you make an initial risk assessment, and then you onboard them and you move on. That happens at the beginning of a sourcing or a supplier relationship, but that's not good enough, because it's like when an applicant applies to a job, they clear the interview process, and you can't just assume they're doing their job. You have to keep monitoring and assessing performance. And so then you get into like quarterly performance reviews or biannual. That's still not good enough, because a lot of bad things can happen between the time you onboard and the next time you're assessing performance. And so, especially in this hyper connected, hyper kinetic world where things happen so quickly that an initial supplier assessment, it just isn't accurate. It's not up to date. So the idea of real-time continuous monitoring, understanding how suppliers are performing, understanding the environment in which they're operating in, the countries that they're operating in, the regions, the legal environments, the risk environments, the geopolitical environments. There's just so many aspects of a supplier's performance and risk profiles that need to be monitored in a real-time continuous basis. Otherwise, their risk profiles are out of date.
How are you getting this data then in a real-time format of all these suppliers?
Well, we have a helping hand from artificial intelligence. We know the riskmethods solution, our risk intelligence engine, collects thousands of sources of information, social media, traditional news media, supplier profiles, supplier risk assessments, information provided by the supplier itself if they're onboarded to the solution. And it looks at millions of different pieces of risk intelligence, and using machine learning algorithms, it collects, parses, understands for patterns, and teaches itself for future reference what are the risk objects. There's over 100 risk objects that we track that are pertinent and that are noteworthy for our customers.
Can you give example a couple of those the 100 ones that you do track?
Right. So that could be geopolitical risk. There is a coup in Turkey, or there is a canal blockage in the Suez, or there's a hurricane barreling up the east coast of the United States. There's wildfire in California, wildfire in Australia. Your favorite candy provider has been using child labor. Not yours personally, but as an example.
Yeah,
those are the kinds of things that we look for.
And so it's basically extrapolating the data in those 100 different sectors to say, this and this and this all might converge and affect your supply chain with this particular supplier because of the circumstances around it.
That's correct. Yep.
Before using a solution like yours, what are people doing then? Are they just manually monitoring? Is there a lot of solutions and options for this? How are you guys different?
Yeah, I mean there are a few supply chain risk management solution providers like us. There are many others that provide some version of this. We like to think of ourselves as a very holistic supply chain risk management solution provider, looking at cyber, supplier financial, natural disaster, human rights, corporate social responsibility, sustainability, the whole shebang. You have specialty niche providers that specialize on some of these kinds of risk objects, and we actually do partner with some of these solution providers to help level out our solutions.
Is the adoption for the digital version of what they would be doing before commonplace? Like, is everyone in supply chain jumping on this, or are any still staying in the more Byzantine or previous empire of I don't know, just spreadsheets and searching and doing it themselves?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and unfortunately, as my prior role as an industry analyst, adoption of these kinds of solutions was low then, and it's still low even after the pandemic, or even after a year of the pandemic. Low 30%, 33, 35% of companies have an automated or digital supply chain risk management solution.
Why do you think the adoption is still so low?
There are a number of reasons. There's no one particular reason. One of it is budget. A lot of companies don't have, especially small to mid-sized companies, don't have the kind of budget or the budget champions to be able to invest in a supply chain risk management solution, whether it's an end-to-end solution like ours or more of a point solution. A lot of other companies look at what they're doing now and say, well, we've made it this far. We don't need something like yours. We've done just fine. And that I have some issues with that. We all have some issues with that. But it's the adoption rates for other supply management solutions like e-sourcing, e-procurement, spend analysis. Those traditionally have higher adoption rates, but supply chain risk, even a year and a half into the pandemic, still fairly anemic.
Do you see that changing, or rather, what do you think will help the adoption going forward? Like, what will make people say, wow, okay, I see the value of this and why I need it?
Right. Well, we try to educate the customers and the market on how valuable and how indispensable our solutions are. As you alluded to earlier, it's just not possible to wrap your head around all of the sources of information and the different languages, and all the details captured therein of the information that's out there. Like, the internet is a wonderful but vast universe of information, and it's not possible for humans to be able to go in there, pull out that information that's necessary for them, that's most pertinent, and make an educated decision on it.
That's where computers should come in, technology should come in, of being able to curate said quintillion bytes of data that exist and is being created all the time.
Right.
There are some people that are cautious or reserved on, can I trust the data and what's coming back, or how much can I really rely on an AI solution to give me accurate answers and actions that I should be taking? What do you respond to that type of statement?
Right, it's a valid concern. Some great science fiction has been written and produced on humans being subjugated to highly intelligent Orwellian or dystopian beings. But I always like to say that AI is here to serve us. We're not here to serve AI. And even as the tech world has been operationalizing and putting into play some of the more basic or narrow applications of AI. There's narrow AI, and there's more of a broader, like, truer AI. Machine learning is more of a narrow application of it, and so it helps users understand. It helps users wrap their head around structured and unstructured data. It doesn't make decisions for them. It just helps them understand, because, again, internet, very large universe of information, not possible for humans to wrap their head around it. And even in large data sets, it's the human eye cannot at least not the humans that I know, cannot look at a large data set and pick up patterns. Machine learning algorithms can, and they can do that pretty quickly. And after a few iterations, can know what to look for future data sets. So AI is here to make our jobs easier. It's not here to replace them. It's here to complement us, not to colonize us.
I appreciate that this distinction. Looking ahead for where you guys are headed at Risk Methods, what can you share as far as on the roadmap or what's coming up or features that you're excited about?
Right. Well, we're most proud of our supply chain risk intelligence engine. It features AI. It has noise cancellation capabilities that allow us to, look at the data with high fidelity and determine, with high fidelity that what we're reporting on is most pertinent. We're not going to be the company that cries wolf. When we tell you something is happening, we want you to pay attention. We have, risk mitigation plans that are off the shelf that you can pull off and put into play when you need to. We have Impact Analyzer, which can, model risk events based on the information and intelligence we're getting in from the field. We have teams in Poland that are looking at this information. They're validating the data, so it's not just machines that are doing the analysis. We're having human analysts validate it and fill in the gaps that fill in the more of the subjective human elements of the intelligence. In the coming months, we're going to be looking at the network effect of suppliers and trying to build a network of suppliers based upon our customers' buy-in. We want our customers to be able to help us build out a network of suppliers to help create this network effect where the more information, intelligence, and suppliers that are uploaded to the system, the better, the more accurate, the higher fidelity of the output we have, not just for a customer, but all of our customers.
Mm-hmm. And in the end, everyone wins. The more answers and data that is able to be shared and supplied around.
That's right. Yep.
Where just for fun for you, Matt, looking at the space of where technology is headed, if you could wave a magic wand and have any futuristic technology today, what would that be? For
inclusion in risk methods, or
it's open-ended for you?
Open-ended. All right. Love open-ended questions. I love the idea of blending commercial with governmental. And so let's say taking satellite data from government satellites and using that to enrich business intelligence or supply chain intelligence. I actually just read a story about that this week, about that happening. Using the Internet of Things to go out and collect intelligence autonomously from connected smart devices, and have that pump back data to either repositories or have it pass through processors to help us give some more insight into the environment in which the device is located, but also help enrich business operations for service and supply chain and resupply and so on.
It's interesting because technology, the future technology is here now. It's like you're hearing this and it's actually being applied. So I'm very excited as well for those concepts. For risk methods, for those that want to learn more, what's actually a good fit for you guys as far as the type and size of company that makes sense to work with you?
I mean, really, we serve all fits, all sizes of companies. Our bread and butter used to be, and it still is, original equipment manufacturers, aerospace and defense, automotive, pharmaceutical, med tech, biotech. But as I said before, we're moving away from your traditional manufacturing and retail sectors into the more of the indirect spend management categories. So, banks, financial institutions, telecom, internet service providers, federal or government agencies, entities that need to procure goods and services, but not to produce anything, but just to operate and to provide services. And there are risks associated with those kinds of widgets as well. It's not just I need to import 1 million gyroscopes, whatever. It's not just that. It's I need to provide service to 1 million customers in the East Coast, and if my computer network goes down because of faulty hardware or compromised hardware, then that compromises our business, and we're not able to operate. That's a very tangible, real supply chain risk that it's slightly different from those on the manufacturing side, but it's no less critical to you on the services side.
Without a doubt. Thank you so much, Matt, for walking us through what you guys are doing and providing. For those that want to learn more, you can go to riskmethods.net and be able to request a demo. Is that a good first step for folks to take?
That'd be a wonderful first step to take.
Awesome. Thanks again for your time, Matt. Good to have you on.
My pleasure, Alex. Thank you for having me.
And we'll see you all on the next episode of UpTech Report.
Have you seen a company using AI, machine learning, or other technology to transform the way we live, work, and do business? Go to uptechreport.com and let us know.